What's up, guys? It's John with National Sports Entertainment, and I wanted to go into tomorrow's game. I think we have a couple actually, but the TCU game is going to be the major one. It's the only one with any kind of playoff ramifications. So I guess you could argue Georgia. I just don't think, same with Michigan, I just don't see these two teams losing. And even if Georgia lost, I don't think it would knock them out of the playoffs. Same with Michigan. But looking at these teams, I had said I was taking USC essentially as a contingency game with TCU because I could tell, but again, going to the end of the season, that, and at least in my opinion, that they were setting up to get one of these teams in. They're definitely not going to boot them both out. They easily could have done that by having TCU. You lose a myriad of games. And again, although I don't love this spread, it looks very trappish to me. I think action is going to be a lot on TCU. If TCU loses, then Ohio State is going to flip USC. They essentially already have. And TCU would get flipped from what I've been seeing. They'd get flipped by like a 6 or 7. I mean, it seemed like Bama could flip them. And I don't think that's going to happen. So the combination of USC losing and TCU losing, I just don't see. Usually, when they do this with college, there's always one team that they'll seemingly boot. So if USC was to win, then I actually would be going with Kansas State. But the fact that USC lost, I know it sounds like silly logic. I do like TCU to cover the spread. I think they want them in the playoffs. Now you got Ohio State, Michigan. You'll have Georgia and TCU. To me, that makes a lot more sense. I'm not sure who they would try and weasel in there. Like I said, it'd probably be Bama or something if TCU were to lose this game. But what they've been setting up with Duggan, I just don't see TCU losing. So I love TCU, obviously, the cover. It's only 1.5 points. And the rest of these games, I really just call these games the irrelevant ones. I mean, I really don't think there's much. Whether Clemson or North Carolina wins doesn't matter. Purdue, Michigan kind of matters. But, the spreads on these games aren't anything I'm running out of my way to play. I figured I'd get this out because it's the 12 o'clock game, and in my opinion, it's going to be the most obvious one as far as like a narrative goes. I'll go into LSU and other games, if we're going to play them. I will say Georgia minus 17.5 looks nice. I think a lot of people don't want to be laying that many points in an SEC championship game, but I think it looks like a trap line. And we could argue TCU looks like a trap line, but they've been getting these kind of lines all year against teams. Against Baylor, I think it was only like 3-4 points, and they've been winning them. So I could say it's a trap, but I've noticed with TCU this year, when they get, quote, trap lines, they doesn't seem to matter. So everything added up, I really do think TCU wins this game and will finish as the third team. The fourth will be Ohio State. And I think that sets up essentially the top 4 quarterbacks. I don't think Will Levis is as good as they're acting. So it basically sets up the top 4 quarterbacks in the college football playoffs. So again, I really like TCU here, just based off the fact USC lost. NBA, we did really good. Wizards, like I said, I did not like the spread. I liked the money line. We did narrowly miss that one, but it's okay because we got the Hawks. We got the Heat Celtics under. I'm sorry, Heat Celtics went over, but we got the Heat cover, so that one split. We got the Nets cover. We got the Cavs cover. We got the Lakers cover. We got the Grizzlies cover. And we got the Warriors cover. Closest. Warriors, excuse me, was 7 points, I believe. We got that one by 1. And then you'll see there's many like it. Cavaliers here won by 11. You see it close to 11. We got in at 10.5. So there's many of these that just happened to come down, to the last couple points. You can call it a coincidence, but I don't think it is. So, of the ones we picked, I do think that the Lakers one, again, it's an ESPN game. It was the most obvious, for the simple fact that so much of the public is going to be fading Lakers in these type of games. That's why I like them. I didn't pick the straight upset. I liked the cover, but I know a lot of people that got in on the straight upset, which is fine too. And there's a lot of these games that a lot of people might have just picked upsets. Here's one. After they played the Wolves, I don't think it's a coincidence. Everyone fades them, and they win. Yeah, that's exactly, just what I expected to happen with Memphis. And then we have, I think the Bulls, like I had gone into earlier, they're a casualty team this year. They're just going to come out so other teams can look great. They're going to probably flirt a DeMar DeRozan trade. They've been talking about that since last year. Maybe some type of three-way deal when he's out. Again, this man, Trae Young didn't even play, and the Rockets won. I'm sorry, the Hawks covered and won by 8, and I think that's because, again, they want to prove that this team is not just a play-in team. They want to prove with or without Trae, but especially when he's in, that they're a top 3 team in the East. So the Hawks are really getting that push this year. Heat, we like them to cover for the simple fact the last time they played the Celtics did not go too well for them, as you can see. Then they played again. Both times couldn't even cover the spread. So I like them in Game 3 to at least cover the spread. Thought it would go under, but the under's a metric that I basically use every game, and I reassess it, and we'll be using that again. Nets, we lean Nets because I think just the public would be fading them. I do see that they had Kyrie and Durant look good. So that's good news. It means going forward we could probably continue to pick the Nets and do well with them. And Cavaliers just look like a trap to me. Like I said, I got in at 10.5. It was actually 10, moved to 10.5. And then I'm guessing towards the end is when it moved to 11, and a few people might have pushed. But the 10.5 just seemed pretty high. I think a lot of people were going to be pounding Orlando on that. And that's why exactly what Vegas did. So a few people probably got clipped, taking the Magic plus 10.5. And then a very few probably pushed. But you see how Vegas does it, where it's a clip or a push, very few win. And we finished it off with the Warriors. So we had a really good day in the NBA. As far as picks, we went 6 and 1. We went 7 and 3. 7 and 2. Our only misses were the Wizards' money line and the Heat went over. So 7 and 2, a really good day. And in college, we about split. I think we did about 8 games. We won 3 of them, so 1 below 500. But again, I'll take it with the NBA day we had. And I obviously went to college already. I think, like I said, TCU tomorrow, just for the narrative purpose, the combination of them and USC is essentially what I liked. Again, I didn't love them both to win or both to lose. I just know both isn't happening because they went out of their way to set TCU up to be in here. They could have easily lost to Baylor. They could have easily lost to so many teams, but they didn't. So that is what makes me believe. Same as when USC played UCLA weeks ago. We knew USC had to win because they were the only team that had the argument for that Final Four spot. Now they don't, but they had it. TCU, again, the only one with the argument. They lose, it makes things really murky, and I just don't think they want that with the committee right now, where they have to put a 2-loss team in over TCU or whatever they would have to do to make it make sense. Because to me right now, if TCU loses, it just doesn't make sense to be able to cram a team in there with Ohio State already getting in. If that logic doesn't, if you don't think that logic stands, that's fine. I'm just looking at the years of history in they've changed it a little bit, but in college, the football playoffs, and they seem to have teams set up in a certain way to make sure that they do get in. So, yeah, TCU I love. We could always do a next leg on this one and play the next college game. But for now, that's just going to be the third leg of our USC game. And here's one I absolutely love. I love Dallas to cover. You could say, oh, well, it looks like a trap. But I see two things. I see Dallas's terrible record against the spread, which I do think turns around. And I see Jalen Brunson versus Luka. You have to remember, Brunson got a big deal, big contract, went to the Knicks, and now he's the guy there. So Luka's not just going to go over there and sell for him. Luka's still 23 himself. So I believe this is one of those games where they show us, all right, Brunson, you still got some dues to pay before you're just going to be taking the Knicks to the playoffs or beating Luka, in the Garden. So in my opinion, it's important just because of the way their rituals work. Dallas wins this game, goes to 11-11. And this usually is the type of game I'd have the Knicks winning because I think they need to be around 500 for a play-in opportunity. And the line screams of a trap line. But again, Dallas hasn't done much for people to be jumping all over them. The Knicks have looked good. The biggest deal here, in my opinion, is Luka versus Brunson. And you can easily say, oh, well, Brunson's going to go over. But to me, it makes more sense for that to happen, you could say at home, but in game 2, maybe even next year. Dallas might go 2-0 against New York. Don't forget, that's a big deal, Brunson leaving Luka and going to New York. So, they did the right thing, obviously. But I think they are trying to show that Brunson still has some growing to do before he's like on Luka or a top 5, whatever you want, what list you want to put him on for point guards. So I think they're going to have a couple fun matchups with them too, and Luka's going to get the better and win that game. I'll go into the other NBA games. I've been continuously liking the over on the Clippers. That hasn't changed. So I do think this Sacramento King Clipper game will go over. And obviously I like the Mavericks to cover. So the Mavs to cover is, as you can see, I had this one second leg, and I decided to wait because they lost against, or they didn't cover. I forget who it was against. So I decided I'd just wait 2 days and take them again instead of just picking any game. I wanted to take the best metrics, and in this case it was the Mavs again. So we got the Mavs in play as a third leg tomorrow, as well as we have TCU in play. And those are the main ones I like. I can go into more, some college and stuff like that. But this is mostly about the getting into the Final Four for the playoffs, and I really do like TCU. And I've been fading them this year too, so it's not like I love the team. I just think the setup is set up so that they can walk in with the red carpet. And it would be way more confusing if they lost than if they won. But yeah, based off yesterday, I think we have a really good idea on these NBA narratives. And we're going to continue to exploit them with these like Laker-Buck type games, Bull-Warrior type games, Nuggets Hawks, where I think the public is just going to be picking who should win, who should cover. And we see who's actually going to in a lot of these games, just based off of, again, narratives they've set up, etc. So we'll go into the rest of the basketball games, but I wanted to at least get the early ones just in case I slept past 12. Now you guys at least have the TCU pick and the early basketball picks. So take care, everybody, and happy earnings.